damage to the eyes. Here's Helen Wright.
The prospect of this country's first total eclipse in 72 years has, like this partial event, excited an incredible amount of interest. But there are fears that in their eagerness to witness the phenomenon, people will risk blindness by looking directly at the sun. The Chief Medical Officer says the safest option is to watch a reflection of the eclipse, using a pinhole device like this one to project an image of the event.
For just a few minutes enjoyment, you could end up damaging your sight for life, possibly even blinding yourself, and it's just not worth it. People should watch the eclipse indirectly or stay indoors.
The Chief Medical Officer is also urging extreme caution. He says there are only two safe ways to watch the eclipse: on television or by using the pinhole method. He says no one should look directly at the sun, even if they have solar viewers like these. The makers of these viewers are also urging people to take care, but they maintain their product is safe as long as it's not damaged.
They are 100% safe. We wouldn't put them onto the market if they were not. They've been authorised and tested by the British Standards Institute, have issued a CE certificate which ensures their safety.
The total eclipse will take a couple of hours to complete, but experts say it would take just a split second to damage the eyes exposed to its intense light. Helen Wright, ITN.
Well, our science editor Lawrence McGinty is in the ITN newsroom now. Lawrence, these are very dire warnings, and yet they seem to have left it very much the last minute to bring all this to our attention. How seriously should we take it?
I think very seriously indeed. I mean, the sun is a most amazingly powerful body. When you think that all life on Earth is actually driven by energy from the sun, you begin to realise how much energy is falling on us all the time. And if you look directly into the sun, whether there's an eclipse or not, then you do risk damaging your vision. The Chief Medical Officer tells a story in another country of a chap driving along in his car during a partial eclipse and just out of curiosity wound the window down to have a look and in a matter of seconds caused permanent damage to one of his eyes. And it's estimated that if you're looking for as little as 5 seconds, you can cause permanent damage. Either in severe cases, if you look long enough, you will go blind, but you can cause a restriction in the field of vision, damaging part of the retina at the back of the eye.
Is there something about the circumstance of the eclipse that makes it more dangerous, the fact that it's gradually getting darker and darker and therefore your eye is adjusting to darkness?
Well, they say that the danger is during the whole period of the eclipse, the hour or so in the build-up to the total eclipse and the hour or so afterwards. And it's not really that the sun's more dangerous at that time, it's just that people are more tempted to look at it. And that's why the government has come out with this advice today.
Now, what about these so-called solar viewers? We saw one of their promoters making a doughty defence of them, and yet we've heard that, in fact, we shouldn't be trusting them. So, again, what do we believe there?
Well, let's go over a couple of the do's and don'ts. The government says, first of all, don't look directly at the sun. Don't rely on things like sunglasses or smoke glass or looking through a piece of film negative. There's no guarantee that those will work because they might let some light through. The only safe way is to use one of these pinhole devices. That's very simple to do. You stand with your back to the sun, hold it up and project it onto a piece of card about 2 feet away. That, they say, is the only safe way. Glasses like these can work, but the government say there's no guarantee they will. If there's any damage around the seating here, or even if there's a tiny scratch, a microscopic scratch on the surface of the filter here, then that will let enough light through to do damage. But if you are going to buy these, buy one with this CE mark on, because that means it's been tested. But the government will refuse to guarantee. They say if you buy a pair of these and you look at the eclipse through it, then you're taking a chance. In fact, they say that the only safest way to view it is with a pinhole camera or watch it on TV.
But that takes away the fun of it, of course, if you're actually got the opportunity to see it in the flesh. Lawrence, thanks very much indeed.
And a reminder of the main news again. A British holidaymaker is among the victims of the event.
The sun at any time can seriously damage your eyes. Our special reporter Rachel Ellison has the safe watcher's guide to the eclipse. Rachel.
Well, Fiona, the countdown to the eclipse has already started. The last one visible from the UK mainland was in 1927. Come August the 11th, this is what will happen. The moon will pass in front of the sun like that, blocking it out completely in some places for up to 2 minutes. Of course, the sun is much larger than the moon, but because it's so far away from Earth, they both appear to be the same size. The eclipse will be at its most dramatic in the southwest, where there'll be a 100% eclipse or zone of totality. Everywhere else in the United Kingdom will see a partial eclipse. 98% in London and Cardiff, 85% in Belfast, and as much as 75% eclipse in Aberdeen. Lots of people want to see the eclipse and the government knows that, but it's warning that doing so is extremely dangerous. You can go blind or partially blind from looking directly at the sun before, during and after the eclipse. And what's more, you won't feel the pain, so if your eyes are being damaged, you won't realise until it's too late. The Department of Health is so worried it's advising us not to look at the eclipse at all, but rather to enjoy the atmosphere and watch the phenomenon on television. But if you don't want to do that, the government's recommending you use this method. 2 pieces of cardboard, one with a pinhole in it, and you stand with your back to the sun and let the light shine through the hole onto the other piece of cardboard. And of course, never look directly at the sun through the hole in the card.
Those bits of cards look a bit tricky, and what if people can't get hold of them? Is there anything else they can do if they want to watch the eclipse?
Well, there is something more you can do. The government's being extremely cautious about this, but these are special EU-approved glasses. If they're scratched, they won't protect your eyes, so if you do buy yourself a pair, you've got to really look after them. Sunglasses are absolutely no substitute, and these should never be used in conjunction with binoculars or a telescope. And finally, children under 10 should not watch the eclipse, even if they are wearing special protective eyewear.
Rachel, thanks very much. And if you want to follow the eclipse countdown, you'll find more details on this BBC Eclipse website at www.bbc.co.uk/eclipse. And the time is 1:15, later in the programme. And now, a middle-aged father from Suffolk has been held in a police cell on suspicion of assault after trying to stop his 15-year-old daughter going out by holding her wrists. Mike Brundle was released without charge, but the case raises serious questions about the rights of parents and children.
For Mike Brundle, it was business as usual today at his desk as the Conservative leader of the council in Bury St Edmunds. The police investigation into what happened last Thursday goes on, but Mr Brundle says he was just doing his job as a father.
He said, look, I don't want you going out. I know where you're going and I know what you're going to be getting up to. And it turned out to be a little bit of a struggle. I was holding on to her wrist. She then left the house, and the whole consequence was that I was arrested a little later on for assault.
Georgina didn't want to be interviewed today, but the confrontation with her father followed a slow breakdown in their relationship that involved social services. In the Suffolk area, Mr Brundle's well known for his forthright views on law and order. He says the system has gone mad.
It's been, I think, degraded over the years, not from the present Labour government, but also from previous Conservative governments, where knowingly they know that we've been going down a very, very slippery slope, and it seems to be that nobody has decided that we should halt that.
Mr Brundle says he wants this case to serve as a warning to other parents. He and his daughter have now patched up their differences, and the family say Georgina has told Suffolk Police she wants the case dropped. But Mr Brundle says this incident highlights how little power parents really have. Richard Bilton, BBC News, Bury St Edmunds.
So what can parents do when they're faced with rebellious teenagers? Amanda Allard is from the charity NCH Action for Children. Amanda, the facts of that particular case are still coming clear, but a lot of parents are going to be concerned by what they're hearing. Where do parents stand as far as the law is concerned, first of all?
I think in this situation, actually, the law is a bit of a red herring. In a case like this, where you've actually reached the point where the child or young person is no longer willing to accept the authority of their parent and doesn't respect them, then in a sense, whatever they do, they're in a no-win situation. Short of holding her all night, which he couldn't have done, or locking her in a room, she would have disappeared out of the window. That's not a solution. And what we think should happen is that parents need a lot more support earlier on so they can deal appropriately with children's behaviour and set up patterns.
Well, what sort of things can they do? Obviously, the idea of unruly teenagers is going to be familiar to a lot of people. So what kind of things can they do?
Make sure that the rules that you have, you really believe in, because you've got to make sure that you follow them through. I think we've got a number of projects that work with parents around supporting behaviour. And one of the biggest problems is where parents will say to a child, you can't do this, and the child does it and nothing happens. The kind of parent thinks, oh, it's not worth it, and they let it go. And when the child's 2 or 3, you know, in a sense, maybe the parent thinks, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. And then they get surprised when it gets to, you know, the child gets to 50 and all of a sudden it does matter.
So they have to be consistent, that's the main
They have
thing.
to be consistent all the way along, and you have to follow through. If you say that a child doesn't do something, then there has to be a consequence if they do. That absolutely has to be. If there's a rule, breaking a rule must have a consequence. It doesn't have to be big, it could be really quite minor, but it must have a consequence.
Amanda Allard, thanks very much. Now, lots of documents, policy statements and task forces, but as yet dealing with riots.
Clearing up nearly 6 weeks after the worst riot in the city for years. This building, the home of the Futures Exchange, suffered the most serious damage. It'll cost more than £1 million to repair. Staff here bore the brunt of the assault as rioters smashed up the reception area and ran up the escalators wielding scaffolding poles. It took the police an hour to respond to emergency calls.
They've made a lot of excuses. They've made their apologies. But hopefully they will not wash this under the carpet, because if it happens again, something better has got to happen. They've got to be prepared to come in at a moment's notice, and they just weren't. All they were doing was protecting themselves in their own vans.
The police knew there was to be a big demonstration against capitalism, but they were taken by surprise when it turned into a riot. More than 40 people were injured. Today, the police will admit serious failings. Misjudgments by senior officers, a lack of experience of dealing with riots, and problems with communications allowed the situation to get out of hand. But they'll say they couldn't have predicted this. A major review of public order policing is now inevitable. They'll be picking up the pieces here for months yet, and the police know that winning back the city's confidence will be difficult. There's a fear, even an expectation, that we're facing a new era of violent, sophisticated protest. All Britain's police forces will want to know they have the right tactics for dealing with it. Jane Peel, BBC News in the City of London.
Summer's here, and many of us are